Why, in an era of opulent glamour and gilded interiors, were hundreds of women from high society locked away in dark rooms or private sanatoriums? Behind the facades of the magnificent mansions of the Gilded Age lay a quiet and systematic cruelty that society preferred to call healthcare. In this world of impeccable manners and expensive silks, the male word had absolute power, and female individuality was often equated with mental disorder. Watch the video to the end to learn how a woman's simple refusal to obey her husband could become an official diagnosis and deprive her of her freedom forever. To begin with, I will reveal the most closely guarded secret of that time, which was the convenience of medicine in maintaining the patriarchal order. At the end of the 19th century, the term hysteria became a universal label for any female behavior that went beyond the established norms. If a wife showed excessive independence, argued with her husband, or became interested in science, doctors saw this as signs of a deep mental illness. It was believed that the female nervous system was too fragile for intellectual stress or strong emotions not related to motherhood. Men quickly realized that a medical diagnosis was the easiest way to get rid of an inconvenient life partner while maintaining an impeccable reputation in society. Instead of a scandalous divorce that could cast a shadow on the family, the husband chose to treat his wife. All he had to do was invite a loyal family doctor who, for a generous fee, would confirm the presence of melancholy or nervous exhaustion. After that, the woman effectively lost the right to control her own destiny. The process of diagnosis often turned into a real spectacle, where every word the woman said was used against her. If she cried because of injustice, it was called emotional instability. If she was silent, it was called catatonic stupor. Doctors at the time sincerely or feignedly believed that the uterus directly affected the brain, causing fits of anger or disobedience. Thus, any attempt to defend one's rights was interpreted as a symptom of illness, requiring immediate isolation. Gilded Age society was built on outward appearances, and a wife's mental illness was considered a family tragedy that had to be hidden. However, the treatment itself often caused healthy women to actually begin to lose their minds. Constant pressure, accusations of abnormality, and a lack of support from loved ones created an atmosphere of total loneliness. Women found themselves trapped with complete submission to their husband's will as their only way out. This control mechanism was perfected and did not raise any questions from those around them. Neighbors and relatives saw only a sad husband who spent huge sums of money on the best doctors for his poor wife. The real reason for her disappearance from the public eye remained behind the closed doors of luxurious bedrooms. Do you think the medicine of that time can be considered an accomplice in these family crimes? Share your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on new research into the dark side of history. What I am about to show you was long considered a cutting-edge medical method, although in reality it was sophisticated psychological torture. Dr. Silas Weir Mitchell developed the so-called rest cure, which became a real curse for Victorian wives. The essence of the method was to completely isolate women from any activity, communication, and even reading. The patient was locked in a room, forbidden to get out of bed, and forced to eat only milk and porridge. Doctors believed that a woman's brain was overloaded with impressions and that only complete sensory deprivation could restore her mental balance. In reality, weeks and months spent within four walls without even the possibility of writing a letter drove women mad. Deprived of the opportunity to engage in creative or social activities, the heroine of those years slowly faded away in a gilded cage. It was the perfect punishment for excessive energy or the desire for self-realization. Husbands actively supported this method as it allowed them to completely break a woman's will under the pretext of caring for her peace of mind. Women were not allowed to see their friends, and they were forbidden from going for walks or engaging in physical activity. Even the servants were given strict instructions not to engage in conversation with their mistress. Such silence was deafening and devastating to the psyche. Over time, patients began to see hallucinations or sank into deep depression. Those who tried to protest against this regime were subjected to force feeding or forced baths in ice water. Doctors called these measures necessary to calm violent behavior. As a result, women were transformed into pale shadows of their former selves, obedient, and quiet. This method became the basis for Charlotte Perkins Gilman's famous story, The Yellow Wallpaper, in which the heroine gradually loses touch with reality while locked in a room. The author herself went through this treatment and miraculously retained her sanity. For many other women of the Gilded Age, the outcome was much more tragic. Want to know how family wealth became a tool for ensuring the eternal silence of an undesirable wife? Read on to the next chapter to see what happened behind the high fences of private sanatoriums. You've probably never heard of this unique secret of the Gilded Age, because private clinics at that time were the most profitable prisons in the world. If house arrest did not help to pacify his wife, a husband could send her to a closed medical facility. Unlike state psychiatric hospitals, private shelters for the upper classes offered luxurious conditions. However, behind velvet curtains and expensive carpets lay a regime that was no different from a prison. The owners of such institutions received huge sums of money from wealthy husbands to ensure that their wives never returned to society. It was a business built on broken lives, where the interests of the patient came last. Women ended up there without trial or investigation, often simply on the basis of a note from their husband and a bribed doctor. Once inside, they lost contact with the outside world, and their letters were intercepted and destroyed. These clinics practiced methods that today would be called abuse. Patients were forced to take drugs that caused constant drowsiness and apathy. This was done so that the women could not protest or plan an escape. The staff treated them like capricious children, depriving them of their remaining human dignity. The luxurious surroundings served only as a screen for visits from rare relatives, who were shown a peaceful patient. In reality, behind closed doors, there was an atmosphere of total lawlessness. The woman knew that her husband was paying for her stay there, and as long as the payments continued, she would not be released. Many spent decades in such resorts until their death. The worst part was that the law was completely on her husband's side. The man was considered the legal guardian of his wife, and his decision to hospitalize her could not be challenged. Even if the woman's relatives tried to intervene, the clinic's doctors could always claim that her condition had worsened. It was a system from which there was virtually no escape. Do you agree that money in that era was more terrifying than any chains? Please tell us what you think about this, and like this story if it made you think. What happens behind closed doors is often referred to as psychological manipulation, but in the 19th century, it was an everyday tool of oppression. The term gaslighting did not yet exist, but the practice itself flourished in the wealthy homes of New York and London. Husbands deliberately rearranged objects, denied things they had said, or staged minor incidents to make their wives doubt their own sanity. When a woman became nervous and sought explanations, she was gently persuaded that she was simply overworked or ill. This tactic was especially effective in conditions of social isolation. A woman of high society was limited to her family and servants, who often sided with the master of the house. If her husband claimed that no conversation had taken place and the servants obediently agreed, the unfortunate woman had no choice but to believe in her own insanity. Gradually, she lost confidence in her feelings and perception of reality. The goal of this manipulation was to completely destroy the woman's personality. A broken person does not claim inheritance, does not demand attention, and does not ask unnecessary questions about her husband's affairs. Gaslighting allowed men to lead double lives, keep mistresses, or spend family money, accusing their wives of paranoia whenever they had any suspicions. Women were turned into silent dolls, living in constant fear of making a mistake. Doctors of the time often became unwitting or conscious participants in this game. They advised delicate creatures not to worry about trifles and to trust their husbands completely. Male authority was reinforced by the authority of science, which made the woman's position virtually hopeless. She found herself in a psychological labyrinth from which there was no escape. Years of this kind of life led to real mental disorders. A woman who was constantly told she was sick eventually began to behave like a sick person. It was a vicious circle that benefited everyone except the victim herself. In the next chapter, you will learn how ordinary furniture and home interiors became silent witnesses to these dramas. Do you think manipulation techniques have changed since then? The homes of the Gilded Age were stunning in their splendor, but for many women they became veritable tombs. Huge halls with high ceilings, heavy velvet curtains, and an abundance of decorative details created an oppressive atmosphere. Women were expected to spend most of their time indoors, doing needlework or receiving guests. The lack of sunlight and fresh air had a detrimental effect on the physical and mental health of the lady of the house. The interiors of that time were overloaded with details that symbolized the husband's wealth. Women were perceived as part of this decor, a precious ornament that must always look impeccable. She could not afford to show weakness or untidiness, even in her own bedroom. The constant need to conform to the ideal image created enormous internal tension. Every piece of furniture in such a house had its purpose and severely restricted movement. The corsets that women wore from morning to night prevented them from breathing deeply and caused fainting spells. Doctors interpreted these fainting spells as signs of feminine weakness and prescribed even more rest and isolation. Physical confinement led directly to psychological oppression. Many homes had special women's rooms or boudoirs, which became places of voluntary or forced confinement. There, a woman could spend days on end without seeing anyone except her personal maid. Loneliness amid luxury was particularly acute and unbearable. The walls covered with expensive silk seemed to absorb tears and unspoken grievances. Life in such a mansion was strictly regulated by rules of etiquette. Every action, from morning toilet to evening tea, was a ritual that left no room for spontaneity. Women felt like hostages to their own status. The beauty of the house became a bitter irony of their inner emptiness and lack of rights. This is what happens behind closed doors when even those who are supposed to help become part of the system of oppression. In the large mansions of the Gilded Age, servants played a key role in isolating the mistress of the house. Maids and footmen were completely dependent on the master of the house, who paid their wages. If the husband ordered them not to let his wife out of her room or to report her every move, the servants obeyed without question. For them, it was a matter of survival and keeping their jobs. Losing their position meant poverty and being branded an unreliable servant. In wealthy homes, rumors spread quickly, and a dismissed person was rarely rehired. Therefore, the master's orders were perceived as a law that could not be broken. The woman was under constant surveillance in her own home. She could not even trust those who dressed her in the morning. Servants were often bribed to spy on their mistress and report any information about her oddities to her husband. This created an atmosphere of paranoia where every casual word could be used as evidence of insanity. Even ordinary fatigue or tears became a cause for suspicion. Any display of emotion was interpreted as a dangerous sign. The woman began to control her every movement and intonation. The house, which was supposed to be a refuge, turned into a trap. Sometimes the servants sincerely believed in their mistress's illness, as her husbands had convinced them of this for years. They saw only a woman who rarely left her room and looked exhausted. Sympathy was replaced by professional detachment or even contempt. The mistress of the house lost her authority in the eyes of her own subordinates. Over time, her orders were no longer taken seriously. The servants only listened to the master. Even if the woman tried to remind them of her position, it only caused awkwardness. She became a shadow in her own home. For a woman, this meant a complete loss of privacy and personal space. She could not even be alone with her thoughts, knowing that someone was always listening behind the door. Such an existence deprived her of her last strength to resist. She became a prisoner surrounded by people who were obliged to serve her. Constant control destroyed her sense of reality. The woman began to doubt herself and her feelings. Her loneliness grew stronger with each passing day. Even trying to complain seemed pointless and dangerous. In court cases at that time, the testimony of servants was often decisive. Servants, prepared by their husbands, spoke of their mistresses' fits and inappropriate behavior. This helped to legalize the sending of women to mental hospitals without unnecessary fuss. The court perceived such testimony as neutral and trustworthy. A woman's word carried almost no weight. In the next chapter, we will learn how the legal system of the time effectively legalized domestic slavery. Do you think the servants had any other choice in those circumstances? The laws of the late 19th century were written by men and for men, leaving women with the status of eternal children. After marriage, a woman entered a state of coverture, which meant that she was completely legally merged with her husband's personality. She could not own property, sign contracts, or appear in court on her own. Her entire life, including her right to personal freedom, was under the control of her spouse. This legal disenfranchisement made women easy prey for manipulation. If a husband decided to lock up his wife, it was virtually impossible for her to seek legal help. Police and courts viewed family matters as private territory, closed to outsiders. A man had the right to correct his wife's behavior by any means he deemed necessary. Even if a woman had wealthy parents, after marriage, her dowry came under her husband's control. This deprived her of financial independence, which could have been the key to her salvation. Without money, she could not hire a lawyer or move to another city. Economic slavery was a reliable foundation for psychological abuse. Public opinion also favored preserving the family at all costs. A woman who tried to escape from her husband was considered fallen or insane. She had nowhere to go, as no respectable home would take in a runaway. The laws and morals of the time worked as a single mechanism to keep women in submission. The most cruel way to break a woman's resistance was to threaten her with separation from her children. According to the laws of the time, in the event of a family conflict, or if the mother was deemed unfit, the children remained with their father. Husbands used this right as a powerful lever of pressure. If a wife showed disobedience, she was forbidden to see her sons and daughters, claiming that she had a bad influence on them. For many mothers, this was the last straw, after which they finally gave up. They agreed to any conditions, any treatment, and isolation, just to be able to see their children at least occasionally. Men manipulated the maternal instinct, turning it into an instrument of torture. From an early age, children were turned against their mothers, told that she was sick or behaving strangely. This destroyed the natural bond between them and deprived the woman of her last emotional support. She saw her own children begin to look at her with fear or pity, dictated by their father. This form of psychological abuse was widespread and was not considered out of the ordinary. Society believed that an unstable mother could pass on her illness to her children, so isolating them from her was seen as a blessing. The woman was left alone with her grief, deprived of what was most precious to her. During the Gilded Age, reputation was more important than life itself, and this is what forced families to hide terrible secrets for years. Outward prosperity was considered the main proof of success and decency. Any stain on the family name was perceived as a disaster. Public opinion had almost unlimited power. If a woman began to openly protest against her husband's treatment, her relatives often insisted on her isolation. They feared that scandal would ruin the chances of advantageous marriages for other family members or damage business connections. Even a hint of conflict within the family could become the subject of gossip, and rumors in high society spread faster than the truth. Close friends and family members became traitors in order to preserve their social status. A mother might persuade her daughter to put up with her husband's tyranny so as not to bring shame on the whole family. Fathers and brothers preferred to turn a blind eye to what was happening. They convinced themselves that it would be better for everyone. In this cold world, the interests of the clan always took precedence over the happiness and freedom of the individual. Women were seen as part of a common mechanism, not as individuals. Their pain did not matter if it interfered with outward prosperity. Personal drama became an annoying obstacle to social success. Women who managed to avoid sanatoriums lived in a state of constant pretense. They carefully monitored every word and gesture. Any weakness could be used against them. Constant tension became part of everyday life. At balls and receptions, they smiled, wore expensive jewelry, and engaged in small talk, while at home they faced coldness and contempt. Luxury served as a mask to hide their inner emptiness. Behind closed doors, smiles and politeness disappeared. Only fatigue and fear remained. The fear of being expelled from their circle was stronger than the fear of domestic violence. Losing status meant losing everything: housing, livelihood, and the opportunity to socialize. Without the support of her family, a woman was completely defenseless. Society offered her no alternatives. Women chose silent suffering, hoping that time or chance would change their situation. They clung to rare moments of peace as if they were salvation. Years passed, but hope gradually faded. Unfortunately, for most of them, salvation never came. The story of Victorian wives driven mad is not just a chronicle of medical errors, but a systemic tragedy of an entire generation. These women were not weak or sick by nature. They were made so by the environment in which they lived. Their fates remind us of the high price that had to be paid for outward prosperity and social prestige in the Gilded Age. Today we look at portraits from those years and see proud ladies in luxurious dresses, but we rarely think about what was hidden behind their sad eyes. Each story of confinement or forced treatment is a monument to the human spirit's struggle for the right to be oneself. These women paved the way for the recognition of the importance of individual rights, even if they themselves lost their battle. Studying this topic helps us better understand the roots of modern ideas about mental health and gender equality. We see how easily a diagnosis can become a weapon in the hands of those in power, and how important it is to maintain a critical view of social norms. The shadows of the past continue to remind us of the need to protect those who have no voice. Many of these women remain nameless victims of their time, their stories buried in the dusty archives of private clinics. But their invisible presence is felt in every step toward freedom that modern women take. We owe it to them to remember the price of sweat and pain they paid while living in their gilded cages. The history of Victorian women opens our eyes to how dangerous a society can be when one person's power over another is not limited by law or morality. We have seen how luxury can serve as a backdrop for deep personal tragedy and medicine as a tool of oppression. These lessons from the past remain relevant today, reminding us of the value of freedom and personal dignity. Which of the control strategies described do you think was the most destructive to women's mental health? Was it treatment through rest or manipulation of children? Please suggest topics for future videos about the hidden dramas of history that you would like to see on our channel in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes about the secrets of bygone eras.